That was always on home to do well. Yeah, turn them upside down and get on the hands on it.
Just spray this plant like reading it down. Spray it all out.
Not worry about that one. Okay. Yeah, that's close to it. Five thirty-five, I'd like to call the meeting to order. You can join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Looking under proclamations, moving on to consent agenda. Brad, anything you need to add on that?
Nothing I need to add, no.
Not, I would entertain a motion.
I have a question, actually.
No.
On the appointments, is that advertised in case anybody else would like to apply for those positions? Or is it just every 2 years it comes up?
Every 2 years, that comes up, according to some.
So is it advertised in case somebody else wants to apply for that position?
I did not say.
No.
Sure, she's an automatic appointment.
Normally, the way that's been done in the past is if whoever is there currently shows interest, we ask if they still have interest in doing that, have them submit a letter, and that's how it's been done.
I think they're all doing a great job.
Hmm.
I was just curious if somebody else wanted to fill in those positions, how that was handled.
I will say the times we've had to replace or fill a new spot, there's never been a huge amount of interest for any of them. And so I think it's usually been if we have good people in place, we just kind of keep rolling with it. That's the way since I've been on.
I know for a fact with fire chief, the fire department always elects who they want as fire chief. And then they send that recommendation to the city commission. So they do it a little bit differently down there, and so the whole department will elect that position. We did do some changes with the city treasurer, that's been Jane for for the past. How long have you been doing it now?
2 years.
2 years,
And that was the state fund.
yeah,
That's where some of the extras.
and so those two have been changed, but are a little bit different, but this is just historically, this is the way it's been done.
Yeah, again, I think everybody's doing a great job. I have no problem with the reappointment. It's just, I was curious as to whether it's publicized.
And city clerk of the state, they must be appointed the first meeting
Okay,
every 2 years.
okay, that'll work. So I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded to approve consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion? If not, none.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to public comments, petitions, and memorials. Angela? It's not used to the microphone being so loud.
Yeah.
That's what I want to, they definitely got it fixed. Actually, you're good here.
I'm here to express my concern regarding the removal of the open public comment period in commission meetings and increasing restrictions being placed on how citizens are allowed to address their local government. While procedural adjustments may be made for efficiency, eliminating or limiting public comment represents a meaningful reduction in public access to government proceedings and weakens the transparency that residents are entitled to expect. The Kansas Open Meetings Act is grounded in a clear principle: the government decision-making must occur in an open and transparent manner to ensure accountability to the public. While the act may not explicitly require public comment, the intent of the law is unmistakable. Government business should be conducted in a way that allows citizens to observe, understand, and participate in the process. A public comment period is not simply a courtesy, it is one of the most basic and visible mechanisms of open government. It provides residents with a formal public forum to communicate concerns and perspectives directly elected officials and a full view of community as part of the official record. Removing this forum does not eliminate public input, it simply shifts it into private channels such as emails, phone calls, or informal conversations. And that is a step backward in transparency. Private communication cannot replace the accountability that comes from public participation in an open meeting. I'm also concerned about the requirement that citizens must submit topics by Wednesday prior to the meeting in order for comments on non-agenda items to be considered. While organization and preparations are important, communities do not operate on a fixed schedule. Emergencies, urgent concerns, and important community issues can arise at any time, sometimes only hours before a meeting. By requiring advanced approval and restricting when residents may speak, the city is limiting the public's ability to bring timely concerns before the commission. Citizens should not have to wait weeks to address matters that may directly impact their families, neighborhoods, businesses, or safety. These restrictions also disproportionately affect residents who may not regularly use technology, may not have reliable internet access, or may have limited transportation to submit requests ahead of time. Many of these individuals are long-term community members who helped us elect this commission and deserve the same access to their local government as everyone else. Public participation should not be limited by someone's ability to navigate technology or meet advanced administrative requirements. I'm also concerned about the growing expectation that citizens provide full proposals and extensive preparation simply to have a conversation with the commission or to request that an item be placed on the agenda. Developing proposals takes significant time, research, planning, and effort. And I know this personally because I have submitted multiple ideas and proposals in good faith, taking me time to ensure they were thoughtful, organized, and presented correctly. In several cases, those proposals were acknowledged as good ideas, and I was told there would be follow-up discussions or further consideration. Yet little to no follow-through ever occurred. That creates frustration and discourages public participation. If citizens are expected to invest substantial time and effort into preparing formal proposals, there should also be accountability and follow-through from the commission. Otherwise, the process becomes to feel less like an invitation for public involvement and more like a barrier that overwhelms citizens before they ever have the opportunity to be heard. Public comment should not be limited only to pre-approved topics or concerns that fit neatly within an administrative timeline. Reasonable guidelines for time limits and decorum are understandable and have worked successfully in the past. The public comment period is intended to share concerns, ideas, or information rather than for immediate debate. The commission was then allowed to choose whether or not to respond immediately, direct staff to follow up, or place matters on an urgent agenda for further discussion. Previous commissions were able to maintain structure and orderly meetings while still allowing the public an opportunity to speak openly. There is no operational necessity that requires the removal of public comment or creation of barriers that discourages participation. These are policy choices, and those choices have consequences. When citizens lose a formal avenue to speak publicly, engagement declines, trust erodes, and government becomes more distant from people it serves. If the concern is efficiency, then can it be addressed through a reasonable structure, not just elimination? A simple 3 to 5 minute limit, no engagement rule already ensure order while preserving the public access to the commission. I respectfully ask the commission to reconsider this decision and restore a structured public comment period that allows citizens the opportunity to speak openly and bring concerns before the commission in a timely manner. To do otherwise moves this body away from the spirit of the Kansas Open Meetings Act and away from the principle of open, accountable, and local government. Public's voice should not be minimized. It should be heard openly, consistently, and on the record.
I agree.
Andy, what would it take to add that? Add something for public comment?
So right now, if you are going to comment on something that's not on the agenda, they contact the clerk's office by Wednesday so they can get on the agenda. Since we imposed that reg, I don't call it regulations, kind of a policy. The commission has changed that to allow people to address agenda items, as they come up. The whole, I think, kind of reason behind it is prevent a scenario where somebody shows up at a meeting, addresses, asks a question, we don't know what's coming. You know, it's very rare we can answer those questions without doing a little bit of research to make sure, you know, we're all on the same page, so. I mean, it's just a policy of the city, there's not a statute or ordinance.
So would we need to do a document or something, or we just change it?
It's just a vote.
Yeah,
It's just a vote.
I mean, we have policy downstairs on the, we just have to change the.
We just voted on this year.
Yeah, and our.
That's when we started taking public comment as an agenda item comes.
I say our policy is more wide open than it has been this past year when we changed it to where you could come in and anybody, I mean, because it says on here on each item, we ask for public comment. I still don't see
And
the
then,
concern of coming in a few days early or calling.
and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if a commissioner has someone that wants to speak, the commissioner has time at the end of the meeting, and I think Brian did that the other day, someone had something to say, so.
I watched a gentleman over here a few weeks ago come in with his paper and thought he was gonna be able to speak, and you guys all know my grandpa Donovan, if he had something, he would come up here and have a conversation with the commission. And to me, why are we taking and telling them, hey, you know, you didn't get put on the schedule the week before? I don't think that's right, I don't think it's fair. I think if you look back through our minutes, that public comment period, it was used very rarely. But just like everything else, if something comes up, I shouldn't have to wait an additional 2 to 3 weeks in order to be able to come in. Like I said, you can limit the time, you can go back to, hey, we need to follow up on this, but why are you guys taking it to where, you know, somebody can't come and just have a conversation? It shouldn't have to go to people.
I think it should be.
I believe we didn't vote on it, actually, we just started doing it correctly. Because we were using a document that was expired.
We've changed the form a couple of times. But public comment, I believe
We were just not doing it correctly.
public comment was in the ordinance. The meeting agenda is set out in the ordinance. We did change everything to make sure our ordinance was in compliance with what we're doing. So,
Currently, we're in compliance with the ordinance.
the ordinance, yeah, we rewrote the ordinance to match what we do with the meeting, so public comment isn't there, like Angela said, it's not required, we've always done it as a courtesy. The reason we had that kind of Wednesday to Monday is so we could be prepared to answer, because I mean, we talk about weeks to answer a question, but if somebody comes and addresses an issue, we don't know what's coming, and it's hard for us to give an answer, then you do have to wait 2 weeks before we can come back.
Well, that's what we addressed the last time that this came up, was, you know, we addressed, okay, new agenda information, and we always ask for open public comment. And the Wednesday before gives Brad the opportunity, you the opportunity, the commissioners the opportunity to research and be prepared to have a conversation with the person who wants to be put on the agenda.
That's kind of,
Anything that's emergent, you're looking at him right there, the door's wide open.
But my issue
That-
is everything is handed back to Brad, but Brad can only do things within his scope of his job. Then he has to turn around and come back to you guys. And if you go back and look at our history of it, it's not used very often. The conversations I've had with people here in the community that had no clue that it had gotten moved to Wednesdays beforehand, and cities around here that allow public comment, it'd be different if we were standing up here having arguments every single week with people who were coming in here having outrageous conversations, but we're not.
And that's why we do, why we have it set the way we do, is to keep that from happening. We have certain policies we follow. And I have to go back to this, because you throw the transparency word out several times. I don't know what else we can do to be more transparent. The meetings are on YouTube, the meetings are open, and anybody can come in and sit down and watch them. Brad's door is open. I have never turned away a phone call or an email. I don't know how else we can be more transparent. So we're trying to keep these meetings as efficient as possible. We are in no way saying we don't want people to come in. I mean, we're always thrilled when people do show up. And it, like I said, if it's something emergent and Angela, you're like, I've got to talk about this, and you call one of us, then we have the ability and the right to be able to say during a public comment, Angela's got something that needs to be addressed. But, and if Brad were the kind of city administrator where you can't come in and talk to him or call him, because I think probably half the town has his number now, I'd be concerned about it, but I don't think people aren't heard. The people who want to be heard can be, and so this is a government, we have to follow rules and regulations to keep things running smoothly. So the fact that we've added it on to all the items that are on the agenda, that anybody can stand up if they want to talk about the fireworks ban discussion later on, they absolutely can. So I don't feel a need to see any other changes, but
I guess my question is what happened this last year? Or what was the topic of discussion that made you guys eliminate the opportunity for people to come and speak to the commission?
it hasn't been
That's it.
limited.
It's been
eliminated.
4 years ago, maybe.
It was during COVID.
It was during
that was
COVID,
done.
we changed a lot of things, but
Yeah.
this is when,
And so,
it was before you started, so. It wasn't
I
last
mean,
year. It was
my,
been-
my take on it, I feel that if someone is gonna take the time to come in and address the commission, that we should allow them to speak. That's,
Well, and doing it structurally, you have that 3 to 5 minutes, you know, you could say, we're gonna do this or that, but I mean, right now, if I don't get something to Brad by Wednesday, I'm not allowed on here, so that means I have to wait 4 more weeks to be able to get in front of you guys to have something that could take a 3-minute conversation just to get things started.
Unless you talk to a commissioner and see if one of us would be willing to put you on during our comment.
And we can amend the agenda. The agenda gets amended right up till we have a 2 hour, we have to put that out, but. Brad can always amend the agenda, adoption of the agenda, I can add items, there's only a few people that can, all 5 of you can add something to the agenda.
I believe the county
About
commissioners
this-
have a public comment period at every meeting.
They do.
They just allow you to stand up and make a comment if you so choose. I'm not
They do.
sure why this is-
And then the school board doesn't have public comment, it just depends on, you know,
My only thing is I want our city attorney, our city administrator, the commissioners to have the opportunity to look at what somebody wants to talk about on the agendas. We can actually have a conversation instead of all of us saying, okay, well, we're gonna have to research this, so you're gonna have to come back to the next meeting.
in 2 weeks, which.
Because
What's wrong with that?
we're not.
yeah, no, you don't have to comment on it. You just say, we'll work on it. I mean,
And then
if someone's gonna take
that's
the
what-
time, it's 3 minutes. I don't know why you wouldn't allow someone to give you.
But if
3
they're
minutes
coming
of time.
here and they wanna be on the agenda, that means they want an answer.
No.
No, I'm
Or
talking
they
about,
just want
talking
to be
about
heard.
open
I just want to hear, yeah.
They just want to be heard.
the
I just had a
open
phone
comment.
call, 10 minutes before
As everybody.
I mean, well, I'm just saying, I literally just had one 10 minutes ago, of someone asking that they were very concerned about something that happened with code, and they were wanting to know if they should come to the meeting and talk about it. And I said, well, really can't unless I come up and unless I ask you to.
And this is also where we're supposed to do the chain of command thing. And it really is, the first person we're supposed to go to is either call in City Hall to get complaints put on the book, so then we can be documented and taken care of, or you give Brad a call first. I mean, Brad should be the first line of defense, and if, well, not defense, but the first line, and if Brad doesn't answer it properly, then absolutely, it comes to the commission next. It's kind of the food chain. And like I said, it's not that I don't care to hear from people. I mean, I said, I have never turned away or not answered an email or a phone call. But it's like we're wanting to change just to change for change's sake. It's not gonna make any difference. If somebody wants to be heard, they're gonna be heard. And like I said, the first step should be the city administrator, always. And then after that, it goes to the commissioners, is the ideal way, because then we know it's gonna get taken care of. Now, is it gonna be taken care of as quickly as you would like it to? You know, you brought in before the concern about we should only have one trash hauler. Is that something that we're probably gonna look at? Most likely, but is it something that Brad has to jump on right away? You know, we don't know his schedule.
Well, I haven't even brought that up, but I'm going to the last commission meeting, you know, we brought up something that had been started 5 months ago. my concern is direct access to the commission during the commission meeting. So if I had something that happened Thursday, and seriously, how many of our elderly, I had a conversation with a person right before the meeting and stuff like that, who used to work for the city, who had no clue that you had to have stuff turned in by Wednesday. He worked here for years. I guess my concern is what's the issue with allowing 3 minutes if somebody has the time to show up here to have a conversation, even if it can't, hey, we'll have to follow up on the next commission meeting. What is the problem with them having that conversation with you guys?
Yes, I'd like to be well informed. I'd like to know what people want to visit about, so I can be prepared to answer questions and engage in the conversation. As Andy, I mean, don't you want to have a little bit of time to research things prior to a meeting?
I mean, you know, lawyers, we think we know everything, but, you know, I like to make sure. I can always hazard a guess, but I like to make sure that I have the authority with what I'm talking about, so. You know, one of the conditions I put on with the commission when I first started was, I really don't want to answer questions point blank, because I may think I know the answer, but I want to have the authority to give to somebody to back it up.
You want to have.
That's kind of why I was a proponent of the Wednesday, whether it's Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, as long as I know what's coming to me, I stick to looking at it. That's what, that, I was a proponent of.
Most of them, we don't get the packet out until Friday noonish. And then that's just 2 days before a meeting versus you having to wait 2 weeks out.
And doesn't the League of Municipalities, they say don't have public comment at all, don't they? Or am I just, or am I making that up?
In conferences, it's better.
And I'm not saying we're going
Not to
in.
not have it, but they want you to limit.
To have structure on it.
Well, I'll just say, I'll make a motion to add public comment and give the people a chance to vote. To talk.
Been moved and seconded to add public comment, to be without prior approval. That would make sense. On the agenda,
Prior notice.
prior notice.
They don't get approval if you don't.
Prior notice. I think I was,
And again, we don't have to comment back, and we just,
Yeah.
you give, it's their right to be able to address the commission.
It could be a question or a statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, there doesn't have to be, it's just that right to be able to come before and say what they
If
feel like
someone,
they need to say to the commission.
if someone feels passionate enough to take the time to come up here and talk, we should allow them to talk.
been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Not Don,
All in favor?
Aye.
all those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. You said yes. Motion passes 3-2.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business, software bids, Brad.
Yes, so previously we sent out a request for proposal for new municipal software. In the meantime, in the past couple of weeks, what I've done is I've done a lot of research on what, you know, the proposals that we did get. And currently we had a meeting with BSNA today. Now we had a software demonstration with them. You know, the second half of that on Wednesday. I'd really like to allow another couple of weeks for us to get all the information that we need in order to make a recommendation. The proposal that I saw today, I mean, the meeting that I had today was positive. I mean, and like I said, I'd really like to do due diligence and kind of go down those, follow all the leads that I can come up with in order to really, you know, make an informed decision on what we would recommend for our software. And so I just asked him to table this for another couple of weeks. We tabled it last time. And so that's why I had it on old business, but I'd like to give it another couple of weeks to continue those software demonstrations in order to come up with a decision.
Is there any public comment?
I know my biggest problem is we put money in the agenda to buy the software, but I didn't know that it came with a yearly subscription as much as it was. So that's why I have called BSNA and Taylor, right? Tyler, sorry. But yes, I mean, I do think that Tyler's really good software. It's just the fee that comes with it that I think that BSNA might be an option that we would want to look at. And that's just my opinion. I don't know a whole lot about it, but
they performed really well today, I'm not gonna lie, their bid came in at the last minute, and Tree Vertical. They do have modules that we need that they don't carry, so in the 2 weeks, we have to figure out what we would do about the modules that we need. Because we'd have to get additional software for those. So that's one of the things, in 2 weeks, we'll come up with it, we'll figure it out and decide, come up with what the bottom line will actually be, so we're apples to apples.
Sounds good.
So would that additional software be available through BSA?
No.
Yeah. And so we'd be specifically talking about like municipal court software that they would need in order to track, everything that they have going on there. They'll be able to receipt into BSNA as far as the fines or anything that they collect, anything like that. However, they need a separate software, from what I understand, so they can track, sentencing, things like that. And BSNA just does not offer that. And so specifically, that's the one that we have now that they don't offer. And so we would need to look at like a separate software where they're able to do that. But that's something, that's what we would have to go down.
You know, if we could just buy the Uni software and the Parks and Rec from Tyler and buy the rest of it from BSA.
You can do things like that, yes. You can specifically say what you want, different software companies and get proposals for that, yes. You can have other entities do that where they have, maybe 2-3 different software versions. I think the county has a couple.
3 or 4, I think.
Yeah, and so that can be done,
I'm not suggesting we do that, I'm just asking.
but yeah, no, that is possible.
And that's what we need to do, to try to figure out how we get.
As long as they work together.
Pardon me?
As long as they work together
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be-
and be important.
Is there a motion to table a decision?
I'll make a motion to table a decision on awarding the municipal software for 2 weeks to allow time for more software demonstrations and more information to be gathered on prices and additional software for certain software components.
Second,
Been moved and seconded to table decision on the municipal software. Any further discussion? Not Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to new business, MIH project utility installation.
So with the MIH project that we have, going on Burning Park, we have 2 options here for installation. One of them is just to bid it out, which would be an estimated cost of $216,220 for the sewer, $387,870. That is for the, $171,650 for the water. That's bidding that out. The total on that would be $387,870. Second option on this would be for the city to do this. If you have the city crews that install these, we came up to a budget of $154,135. We did this based off of, we had our city crews, our water supervisor, sewer supervisor, they called our suppliers, got a hold of what those prices can be for those parts. And that's how we came up with those prices. There were a few prices that I did use the engineer's estimate on, and that would have been the manholes and the lift station. And so we've been in contact with both of those companies, we just have not seen that price. There's a lot of options when it comes to that grinder lift station. And so the way that is sized, I know that the engineer sized that for that development, which is what that is sized for. If we wanted to size that up to a larger one, I mean, those can be, very expensive. Those lift stations can be $500,000 if you get to a large size of those. And so really what I need, and so the reason that this is important tonight is I need to know a direction. There is some time, this can be time sensitive as far as lead time for some of these parts goes. I would, if we were going to install this ourselves, this is something that I would like to get going sooner than later. And so we can actually get some of these things ordered, especially when it comes to some of our grass parts, I mean, we've had, 6-month lead times on some of these sometimes. We've had better luck lately. Yeah, COVID was pretty tough. It just depends on what we get. And so it's really kind of all over the place on where the lead times are for this. And so it's important for that reason. It's important for logistics purposes. It's also important for us to be able to figure out, what that final cost is going to be. So I have something to talk about with, like, say, the county, the school. And so when we go to say what our costs are going to be, I need to know what to tell them. And so I would like just to discuss this tonight, come up with some kind of a conclusion on what we're gonna do, how we're going to move forward with this project. And I'll just leave it open at this time.
So you said that sorry, my pen wasn't working, the sewer was 250, is that?
The sewer is 216, 220. That's an estimate, yeah.
And that's still the developers. That's what you put on the bid, correct? That was his estimate of the sewer portion.
Yeah, that was our engineer's estimate of the sewer portion.
Okay, so that's 380,000 basically. I guess, what do we know? On the water side of it,
Mhm.
what is the expense to the city for that portion?
Let me look real quick. And so we had wanted to go with we had wanted to go with 6-inch, or we want to do 8-inch just for the future.
Or 8, well, I think it's.
Because we got
Yeah, I'm
both.
sorry, it was 8.
I can do both here.
There's the bigger pipe, whatever.
Yeah, so 8-inch pipe would be $56,064.40.
So it's 20 again, sorry.
$56,064.
So that's just for
Let's
the
just say
pipe.
56,060.
And so the rest of the 120,000 would be supplies for the sewer, basically.
Yeah, no, that'd be water alone. The 216 would be the sewer price if we did that.
Well, I'm saying if you have. I'm just going off of, if you thought that we have a budget of 154 to do both of them,
Mhm.
so.
The rest of that would have been sewer, yes, that's.
And so, that's what I'm saying, like, 154,000 is basically just supplies, so at 300, it basically costs us, I'm just doing trash math. $200,000 for labor is basically what this,
I had that figured in, but that's not something that. So those labor costs and things like that, those are actually, that was part of the presentation that I made, where I actually had those labor costs. As a part of that, but the way this would be paid for, since we already budgeted. So that labor would be coming out of, say, the water department, sewer department, street department, whoever we use. Out of that's where that labor would be paid out of, the actual money that we use, but you're correct. And so I guess I understand your question, that is for the supplies, yes.
so. I mean, my stance on this isn't gonna change. I think that asking you guys to do the city water and sewer is too much of a project. The water line is much more doable and quicker. Than the sewer. The sewer is gonna take a lot of time and it's deeper. So I don't like, I think we're putting too much on our city guys to ask them to do both. So I would say to a minimum, we could maybe do the water line, and I still think that's gonna be hard on. And I know, I mean, Brad, you told me yourself that, yes, they can do it, but you wouldn't recommend them doing both. I mean, that was kind of early in the
Yeah.
discussion, but
It was one of those things when we were talking about that, we were looking at the scope of like what we had with all the city work that we needed to get done. And so the discussions that I've had with the Public Works Department in the meantime, I pulled them aside. It was a staff meeting. How long ago was that? Probably 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Where I pulled them aside and I just told them, just give me your flat out honest opinion. What do you say about this? And the answer I got back, which was from one of the department heads that's not here, but it made a lot of sense to me at the time, was that they were comfortable with it as long as we had construction observation going on at the same time. And so, and that's a good conversation to have, because as far as the sewer work goes, it's required by KDHE. We have to have that. And so we have to have that construction observation the entire time. And they said the reason that they wanted it was because their biggest fear was they're going to be told that they did something improper. And so that was the reasoning. Is that a fair statement? Yeah, I believe that's, what I was told. And so, that's a conversation I had with Public Works at that time. They said they felt comfortable with it, but I also understand the position of, we have a lot of them.
And my worry is that I don't know if we'll be able to just dedicate the guys to just get in there and do it for a month. They're gonna be pulled off, and if you have an inspector, how do you tell him, well, we're not working on this project then?
Yeah,
So there's a lot that comes into effect with this, but it's not. The sewer line is just, it's a lot. It takes a lot more time. The water, you can just dig a hole and kind of bury it and go, but that sewer line takes time. You don't wanna have a hole open and then leave for 2 or 3 days, and then it rained, there's a lot of value to just hiring somebody and having it done and where they can dedicate all their time to it, so. My stance on this will be the same. I feel that we could do the water and the sewer line is it's putting our guys out too much. And we're putting them in a position where I don't think we need to be putting them.
Who would handle the construction observation?
I asked our engineer to give me a price on what that unit price would be for that. I brought that. No, probably an engineer, somebody who's qualified would have to do that. You could bid that, you could have somebody who has local knowledge could do that, as long as they meet the KDHE requirements to do that construction observation. And that's all it takes.
And I still don't agree that we should be paying for this either. That's per our code, the developer should be paying for this, so. That's a whole nother topic.
Your memo, you mentioned that if the city performs both of these utilities, that we would have enough money and that economic development sales tax to cover it.
That's correct, so the excess money that we have, that economic development sales tax budget for this year is $156,300.
So if we did what Commissioner Shepherd's proposing, we wouldn't have money out of pocket to pay for that if we bid out the sewer.
We would have to figure out how what other funds we would need to come up with to pay for this. If it would have to be a bid process. And so, like I said, that 216, for the sewer, that 216,000, that's an estimate. We would have to be able to get bid specs together on something like that. Take that back to bid and see where those bids actually came back at. In order to see what that price is really gonna be. Normally and I believe that our engineer would say the same, normally they estimate high when it comes to these things, because they don't want to estimate low and be wrong. And so I would not expect, it could be lower than that, but I don't want to say that. It also could be higher than that. I would expect it, but.
Is there any, we're still in negotiations, obviously, with what this developer is gonna be paying for and what he's not. Have we asked if you'd be willing to pay for the sewer and if we put the water line in? And that's kind of we're already doing more than what we need to be doing, but it is within the scope of what the money that we have if we put the water line in and he carried the sewer.
I know that with a developer, taking on agreeing to, which I haven't seen the agreement yet, but in those discussions to take on the street, one of the big problems is if the more expense they take on, the higher the rent needs to be in order to cover that. And they have to get that approved through the state, which is why I haven't seen that agreement yet from the developer. They're still working through all those numbers with them. That's just on the street portion of it. We have not asked directly on the sewer, but
I'm just confused. If they did this proposal and they had this, why, how did we get the rent levels so that we were on the hook for paying for all this to begin with? Like, why wasn't he, per our code, he has to do streets, sewer, the water, so why wasn't that included from the proposal from the very beginning, is what I'm saying.
It's just,
That's part of the project, I mean, I can't expect to build a house here in town and then go, oh, I came up short. Will the city run my sewer? See what, I mean, that's basically what's happening here, so. From the beginning, why wasn't the proposal done with the way our code?
it's just the way that we talked about this project from the beginning.
Was it not related to the RHID that the state came up with that allowed the cities to pay for this stuff
Yeah, that's
to get reimbursed for it?
Yes.
That's probably the whole scenario of how this got put together.
yes.
They had a plan to help the cities out, and they had the grant to help the developer out.
Yes,
How they structure these projects, the way I understood it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've had those conversations we've had in the past, so yes.
So we could use the RHID then to pay for the sewer.
You could, I mean, so that's part of why this is so important for us to determine what we're doing. It's because really what I need to propose to both the county and the school is they need to be able to see that RHID plan that we have in place that has all these items in there and what these costs are going to be, what the risk is to the city. I think that one of the big, part of what the developer was talking about in the community meeting was, we wanted to keep this thing, and they gave me a phone call afterwards saying, okay, well, if you guys are gonna have that little cost into it, it doesn't make any sense to go offer a bond for something like that. Because your bond costs you're gonna have $50,000 of issuance fee, on a relatively small amount of money. And so it just doesn't make financial sense, and I agree with the developer 100% on that. Where if we get our costs down to a level, if they're taking on the street construction, for example, it prevents us from going out or needing any kind of bond to do a project like this.
Yeah, and I've also said, we have the 10-year abatement. So that could be an option where, the city or the county and the city, we've already adopted that. It's where he would get the abatement of taxes for that. And I think, again, just rough numbers, I think that was $300,000 worth of taxes that he would be getting back. So to me, that's something that he basically be using that to pay for the sewer and the street as well. If he took that,
Rent go up,
well, but he's getting the money back. I mean, otherwise,
the rent go up.
otherwise his taxes would be going to us. So, I mean, it's still money in his pocket. It's just not upfront.
I did propose to them, for them to take the, county, just ask them about that, and they did not think that the numbers would work for them on that. So that's the answer I got.
Are you still thinking if our guys did both of these lines that roughly a week for each one?
I would say that on the water line, it's going to go faster than the sewer. I had a month that I had blocked out for this project.
For both water and sewer?
When I figured time for something like this, I thought that a month is probably more, appropriate. And that's working time, if there's rain days and that's gonna extend it.
Are there any large risks involved with doing that sewer?
Safeties are gonna be your biggest risk involved with doing the sewer.
Deep.
And so the sewer is going to be, if you look at the plan profile of this, it's going to be at its deepest 9 feet deep, so yes, 30 deep. And so safety is always gonna be the biggest factor when you go to doing work like this. And so that's why, having the equipment that you would need in order to either shore the trench boxes, things like that, whatever you would have to do to make that safe. That is what would be done.
Do we have that equipment available now?
We have a trench box that we do have, any other equipment that we would need to be rented. And so as part of the $154,000 that I came up with, I feel that that's adding a 10% contingency in there, so that's adding another, $15,000 roughly. So the actual number for the water and sewer line installation is about $15,000 less than 154. Because I added a 10% in on that.
Well, I still think we need to get an agreement from the county and the school, whether they're interested in doing the RHID. Or whether that's even an option, because the county's portion of that is where most of the money, the RHID doesn't do anything unless they agree to it.
And I've talked to the county about that, and what they said that they would need it from me was to know what the city's risk was of this. And also they wanted to know what the city's actual cost was going to be. And that's why I need to determine what that number is.
So if we do the work, where does the money go for the RHID?
The RHID money, it can be set up, and so that money is going to refund what goes to the street and what goes to, it's whatever is a qualifying expense. And so it can go to the street, it can go to the water, and it can go to the sewer. And it's all about how that's set up. And so what the developer had said, especially in the meeting that we had with the public, was that they would like to see the RHID set up to where they're taking on that risk without us having a bond. And so they would like to see the street portion of that refunded first before the water and sewer. Now, it depends on how the city wants to set that up. You can add the water and sewer to that RHID plan, or you can leave it off and just let the RHID in once the street is refunded. You can do it that way as well. And so at that point, you start receiving that, that property tax into, our ad valorem tax that we receive every year. For the county or the school, for example. And so there's options there, but it's a number itself that I need.
And I guess my thing, Brad, I mean, I don't ever wanna do something just because it's the cheapest. Because of course that's appealing when you're looking at half the price, but I have to trust that you and your department heads and all that if they feel like they're not feeling safe to do this job, they tell us, and then you would tell us as well, so. I understand the depth and all that, but this is where I have to rely on my city administrator and my department heads on if they think they're capable of this job. And if the rest of the city, with the other things that still need to get done, will still be moving ahead as well.
Yeah, and so those are the discussions that I've had with, our department heads, and I know as far as the equipment itself goes, this is something that they're well trained in. These are things that they've used in the past. I know they're comfortable using it. We've had enough people here that have been in some, I guess, bad situations in the past that, it's something that would be strictly enforced. I mean, it would have to be. If we decided to do this ourselves, strict enforcement of the safety rules would be, the most important for me.
So backing up again, if we hired out for the sewer, would we have to take out bond then to cover that?
We would have to look at, if we wanted to hire that out, what I would say to that is we would need to get something out to where get a bid packet together and get that portion of it out, see what that cost is going to be, and then we would have to look at that it would be tough to cover with city finances of our 2026 budget, for example,
When is the project date completion supposed to be?
2027, but we need to.
What month?
Project date completion, I think, what did they say they wanted to have everything done by next July.
So, we would have more money in the economic growth fund in 6 months, wouldn't be enough, but we would have, by then, we would have some more money in the economic growth.
Sure, and so you could think creatively on something like that if you wanted to. And like say, the only other fund that you could use for something like that would be like, say, the Fund 91, that'd be capital improvement. You know, those are the types of funds that would be available for a project like this. Other funds are gonna be really difficult, like sewer fund is not gonna be something that we're going to be able to tap this year just because of what's going on. I would be worried that if we try to pay for a portion of the sewer fund itself, it'd go into a negative cash balance, for example. You know, we don't have a good fund balance here to begin with. However, you would have to get, like I said, you'd have to think about reprioritizing some projects, some things that we had decided to do with the capital improvement plan, which is part of the capital improvement plan. Those things do happen. And so I'm not saying there isn't a way to do that. You wouldn't necessarily need a bond, but it would be difficult. We would have to get creative, there'd have to be sacrifices.
So ultimately, in speaking with Public Works, they're comfortable doing this job.
Yes.
You can get the equipment and do the job safely.
Yes.
And it can save the project a couple $100,000. In labor,
150,000.
$150,000.
I mean, my deal is, I don't tell my employer no very often, so that's
Yeah,
kind of a tricky deal, like if they're saying, can you do it, but are you gonna say no? I mean, do we typically do 600 foot of sewer line? No,
no, I mean, so
So-
this is going to be not quite that extensive. This will be, what is it, 120 feet, I think, of what we had. Something like that. I don't know, I think it's 120 feet, but still, it's a lot. We've never done 120 feet at a time. Well, we did quite a bit now at the time. It's more than one.
it's a bigger project than what
Sure.
we typically do, so it's.
But ultimately, you didn't ask for a yes or no. Question, you asked if they're comfortable doing it. Yes, they are.
Yeah, I did, and so I just asked them to look. And I've worked with them long enough to have, you know, that kind of, I guess, rapport with them, I guess I would say, where I just want, like, just shoot me straight, you know, be honest. If you're not comfortable with this, is what I told them, you know, then that's going to be my recommendation.
We're trusting you guys, to be honest.
Ultimately, Dominic. Are you comfortable doing this project? Is your crew comfortable doing this?
I've been here almost 20 years and I'm very comfortable with the guys I dig. I would put, my main guy that digs against any. And out there, it's wide open and you can bench out there. You can bench it back out there. No, I'm very comfortable.
And with construction observation.
Yes,
throughout the entire
Yes, we
project,
would have to have that.
water in sewer.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, we put in manholes. And since I've been here, we did, I know, this, what is it, 300 something feet of sewer, and then the force main is 2-inch.
Force main's 2-inch, yeah, but we could, force main's a little bit different because it's under pressure, you can like trench that.
Yeah, it's not, speed. And then we have, probably sitting on the property over 1,200 feet of 8-inch sewer right now. But
Okay, thank you.
It's 344 feet here.
no, I'm very, we've sat down and talked about it. And yes, there are other projects, if we can. We were thinking about dedicating at least 3.
3 and sometimes the main.
Yes,
Do you feel like your guys would be honest with you? Even after Brad left, they would tell you, hey, we're just kidding, we don't really want to do it. Do you feel like they'd be honest?
I think those guys would have told me. I would have thought, I'm gonna be right there with them.
Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you.
I'd be in favor of having our guys do both of these lines, that's my opinion.
I'm gonna go with what our guys are saying. Do I agree with that?
I would have to agree. I think the city crews can handle it, and I think the construction observation through both projects, they get along just fine. We need a vote, you need a
Yes,
motion.
Yes, please.
Okay, I guess I'll make a motion. How to word this.
Move forward.
Pardon me?
Move forward with the city.
Okay. I'm gonna make a motion to move forward with the city crews handling the water and the sewer project at the new housing development with continuous general observation, construction observation.
There a second?
I'll second
Then move a second to move forward with the projects with the city crews completing sewer and water. And the new housing addition. Any further discussion or any public comment? I'm sorry. Public comment?
So how deep is 9 foot the deepest?
9 foot's where it's at its deepest, yes.
Okay,
From what I can see off the plan profile, that's where it's at its deepest.
and I'm gonna be ignorant. It is for help.
The villas, yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, and so just from experience, from what I know, also, you guys will have shoring for those guys. Because that is a big issue when you get deep like that. We know
Yes,
that.
it.
yeah, yes, definitely so.
'Cause you don't want it to get that rain and have that thing cave off. I mean, it can happen.
I know we did a line between, that would have been between, was it Delaware and Shawnee Street? Where was that sewer line at 12th Street?
Right.
And so we did rent the equipment to do the shoring at that point too. We do have a trench box that we bought in the meantime.
You knew you had that.
And so that trench box goes to 10 feet deep, is what that's rated to. You can always get more, but, that's how deep our trench box will go, is 10 feet. If we needed additional, then we would rent that equipment like we did in the past. And some of the manholes that we've done, like what they just did over by, what is that, Pawnee Avenue, we overdug. I mean, that was,
That was pretty deep over there.
it was deep, so that, I think that, how deep was that? Probably about
12.
12 feet.
That was 12.
I mean, we dug a giant hole that day. I mean, it does a lot of damage when you do that, but it does make it safe. That's not the preferred method, but just because the amount of excavation that you need to do that, yeah, it's extra time, but whatever you have to do to make it safe, that's what we do.
Which I'm sure, I mean, I know Dominique well enough to know that he's gonna do what's right.
That would be all part of the observation. Part of it, right?
Yeah, and so the observation part, they're really gonna be looking at to make sure that we're meeting our slope requirements, things like that. You know, those.
But not safe. They're not.
Yeah,
open.
they're not safety guys, no. They want the observation to make sure that they're able to say that we did this job right.
Any other public comment?
I have a question, and it may be, do we have anything from the developer to show that they have their financing guaranteed already, that they have it in place before we continue to put funds into this? I don't know what they put forth, or I know they talked to GNB, but do we have anything that shows that when it comes to their side, that they have the funding?
I think they had to show funding just to
Did they?
get
Okay.
the grant.
Okay.
In a sense.
And so they've just showed what they've shared on their financials as far as where their funding came from, as part of the GM Bank loan.
I kind of figured that's what it was, but I don't want to just assume, so.
Regarding taking on the streets and the sidewalks and the landscaping was gonna be continued. We're gonna address that with the bank.
That's correct, yes.
And that was that 1 through 13 that they had talked
Yeah.
about, okay.
Yes,
That's right.
items 1 through 13.
Okay.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to move forward as they all said, any further discussion? Not done.
All in favor? All opposed?
Motion passed 4-1. Item number 3, fireworks ban discussion.
And so I was asked to put I had actually attach the current fireworks ordinance, and if you remember last year, we had changed that to where we actually allowed fireworks stands back in town again. We had we did have a trial last year with the fireworks, it was, I believe, that ended at 7 p.m., is that how that ended last year? It ended early, right? You know what? Was it 10? I thought it was earlier. I thought it was early.
No, it's still down.
Maybe it was 7, then I don't.
Really early. It was really early, so we allowed it on July 3rd from like noon to 8, it was like. And so, you know, I was asked to, you know, get this back on the agenda, we have the 250th, celebration coming up for America. Just to get the discussion back on there about allowing, you know, fireworks in town again, and so. I'd like to turn it over to discussion at this time. I have attached my commission action report, and so really this, you know, this ban of discharge of fireworks, it's been in the city of High Walls for a number of years. I think at least since the 1980s, as far as back, what we could figure last year.
Okay, the ordinance is only for sale.
The ordinance is only for the sale of
Okay.
fireworks. Yes, we suspended the ordinance last year to allow for the discharge.
Okay.
And so it kind of like, well,
Different ordinance.
so we would have to, if there was a desire to change that ordinance, we'd have to update that ordinance again. You know, which is something that can be done, but it'd be advantageous for us to keep this now to get ahead of this conversation. If this is how we want to move forward, in order so that we can have that in place for the 4th of July this year.
I would like to at least see fireworks on the 3rd and the 4th in town, with it being enforced, because that was the complaint that I had last year is, we have an ordinance, but people would call in and the police would not go talk to them. So I think we have a new police chief here, and I think we should give him a chance to actually enforce this year and allow people to shoot at the right times, and then the people that abuse it, the police will stop and give you a warning, and then if you have to come back, you get a ticket, and just make that very clear. But if we're not gonna enforce the ordinances that we have, then there's no sense in even having it. And that was the complaints that I had mostly. It wasn't the fact that people were doing it, it's because the police were not taking care of it.
Chief, do you have any comments that you'd like to give us on this topic? We've had for many years, we haven't allowed fireworks to be discharged in the city limits. We have the city lake out here that was set up so people could take their stuff out there. And now we're reconsidering it.
The one thing I would say is I hate to disappoint folks. And this is a two-edged sword. Disappointing folks that they can't shoot fireworks, but most importantly, as Mr. Shepherd said, and we get called to respond. And I'm not trying to denounce what we're going to do, but I'll explain. It's probably a priority 3 call of 4 priorities. If there's anything that's a priority 1, 2, those go first, then we get the priority 3. And then those things stack up as they come in. So by the time we're responding out there, say we go there and we find some fireworks that's been expended into the roadway, we can't really do anything with that because we have to have what's called on-view misdemeanor. We have to see it to be able to enforce something. We go and speak to somebody and say, hey, are you shooting fireworks? They say, nope. They're like, okay. And so that would be a consideration. Also, if we can speak to somebody and say, and they say, yes, that person was shooting fireworks outside of the parameters, and I'm willing to go to court, we can do something about that. Absolutely. We certainly can. But unfortunately, sometimes the public really is reticent and want to be able to go to court. And that's a roadblock for us, because it has to be an on-view misdemeanor to be able to do something about it, or we have to have somebody willing to go to court. But in California, 0 fireworks, except for one community, which was a mistake, because it was up in the mountains by the tender, as we called it. But in the city of Oxnard, there was no fireworks, but it was still quite heavily used. But again, our officers, and mind you, this is a full staff of officers going out there, they really couldn't do much outside of those parameters of the on-view event. And I spoke to my staff today quite extensively on this topic. And they expressed the same things I'm expressing to you folks. It's not that we don't want to be out there, we want to come and contact folks, we want to get to them, but unfortunately, unless it's an on-view misdemeanor, our hands are a bit tied. So that's all I have, Aaron.
Thank you.
So it's an unenforceable ordinance, basically, is what we're hearing. And I will assure you, we're not gonna stop people from doing it, just like every year, so. The only people we restrict are the people with their young kids that wanna do it in the driveway with their kids. Those are most of the complaints that I have is, you know, the grandparents buying the fireworks, and they just wanna shoot fireworks off with their kids.
That and the ordinance ended before nightfall.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember that, because someone
Yeah,
mentioned that.
well, I mean, it's still like, I think 9:30, I don't even think our event starts until 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, and so, you know. And again, I've said this before, I mean, our event is more disruptive to pets and everything else than your average guy just letting off some smoke bombs or whatever next door. So. Our fireworks are the loudest out of all of them.
Yes, my thoughts are based, or exactly as they were last year. I don't agree with fireworks in the city limits for several reasons. First and foremost, veterans. We offer the city lake for 2 solid days. Or there's no particular time frame to shoot off fireworks at the lakes. In the city limits, when you're dealing with veterans, you're dealing with the animals, pets, that kind of thing. I got calls on that. I also got another call about a lady that has a lawn that is a turf lawn, and she had to wet down her lawn because of the neighbors shooting off fireworks just during that time frame. I don't see anything wrong with leaving things the way they are. It's a lot simpler for the police department to enforce if it is just bottom line, no fireworks in the city of Hiawatha.
My struggle with this, because I voted yes for it last year, and
Yeah.
out of
So,
all the topics that was the most phone calls I got from people. Or seeing them at Walmart or whatever, that they did not like that it was bothersome to them. And I said, I'm sure there are just many people who enjoyed it, but the ones that I heard from, why did you even change it? And they did not care. So. Looks like we have a public comment.
Yes, that would be all right. I live outside the city limits of Hiawatha, I actually live next to the city lake. And I understand not wanting to, have fireworks near veterans, things like that, and get saying to pets, whatever else. I think the city is, misinformed if they think there aren't pets or veterans near the city lake, where there are 3 days of all day, all night fireworks out there to go on. And don't get me wrong, I'm okay with fireworks. But I think that, rather than pushing the fireworks out to the city lake, the city should just allow people to celebrate.
See, we still would have had them at the city lake, because we shut down the fireworks by like 7 or whatever it was.
Yeah, the city lake was hopping last year too, and like I said, I'm fine with that. It doesn't, it's whatever. Our dog doesn't like it, but that's part of life. But I would encourage the city to allow people to celebrate and allow it to continue to after dark.
It's 250 years this year, it's a big one, so people are gonna do it regardless. I'll just like every year, so. And you can't enforce our ordinance, so I don't see the point of it.
You can enforce the ordinance. He's not saying you can't enforce the ordinance.
We've never done it in the past,
That is not true.
well, maybe when you were on there, but it hasn't
When I
happened.
was on there, it was enforced, trust me.
Now's a different time, because it doesn't happen.
Well, I think we have a city ordinance. I think the police department is going to enforce it.
I just don't understand. I mean, I actually travel all over for, on fires. And yet, big towns can handle it in Utah when we're on a fire. But here in Hiawatha, Kansas, we can't handle a little bit of fireworks. I mean, even in California, LA County, they still light fireworks. There's videos all over the internet where there's a huge van and the whole place is lit up. So we're not doing anything by having this ordinance at all.
Hi. When we did this last year, are they allowed to sell in town this year?
Yes,
Again,
they are.
so they still can sell? Okay,
It's-
it did get changed permanently.
No, it's permanent, yes.
Okay, perfect. I just want to bring up, so I guess for me on this topic in general, if you go back to, I'm a military mom, so you've got that at my heart, believe me, I understand with coming from a huge military family there and having pets. But I also go back to, if you look back at your childhood, the things you did, riding in the back of trucks, was it the smartest thing? Probably not, but we had fun doing it. I guess we're taking too many things away from the things that we can do. And one of the things we can do is celebrate the 4th. All these other towns do it. So to me, why are we not encouraging our kids to stay in town and do things with their families instead of forcing them out of town for something that we all did as kids? But I mean, like I said, believe me, I appreciate the veterans and because I don't think we take that into account for a lot of things, but I also know that on part of that, they do prepare for a lot of that with 4th of July and stuff coming up. But I think we need to look at overall, try to bring youth back into town. What are some things that we can do and letting them celebrate town with these things.
Then we do the fireworks show in the city of Hiawatha on the 3rd of July. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
I won't change my view on it.
I'll make a motion to allow fireworks on the 3rd and the 4th. From, I'll just say 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night on the 3rd and 4th.
United States for the wedding promotion.
Yeah.
Just, this is just my personal.
Yeah, you go to the.
This is just my personal opinion on fireworks. I mean, I love looking at them. I like watching them too, because I always go to the Hiawatha one. My dog absolutely hates it. She's terrified of them. But I know as a child, I remember getting to do this, but when we lived in Falls City, and this is just how I remember it, it did get to be a problem with the fireworks, with people shooting off of like the bottle rockets and stuff, and this causing fires and things like that. And for some reason, and it sticks in my mind that they limited us to certain types of fireworks that we could go back into town. And so I remember getting to do the little snakes, getting to do like the fountains, and maybe like our sparklers, but we weren't allowed to do any more shooting up. Oh, Roman candles, that was another thing. Those were the big issue. I just was wondering if it could be I would be proposing something like small things that do not go up in the air because of residents' houses and their yards. It's something that can be contained in a small area and put out. That's just my personal preference, though.
Thank you.
Kansas already does have pretty strict laws on, we can't have bottle rockets and stuff like that, so.
I did.
Missouri, Nebraska, all that stuff's allowed, which we can't buy that in Kansas already, so. That's why I say you just go, you put it back to the state level and allow them, they can get them, also get marijuana, in Missouri, so, we can't do anything about all that. It's just, it is what it is. So, again, that was my motion to allow fireworks from 8 to 10 o'clock, the 3rd and the 4th. And it'll be the same motion next year too.
Is there a second?
Yeah, may I interject one thing? There is a specific definition with the code, safe and sane fireworks versus dangerous fireworks. Dangerous fireworks are the ones that you get from Missouri, those cherry bombs and rockets and all that other stuff, but safe and sane stuff is the stuff that's defined as that which can be used within many communities in campus. I want to make sure we clarify that, because if you specify that, it narrows down the scope of what it is that can be used.
That's a good point. So I'll make the motion of the safe and sane, is that the word you want us to say?
Yes, sir.
Safe and sane fireworks, also legal in Kansas fireworks. On the 3rd and the 4th of July. From 8 to 10 o'clock.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Like I said, the only discussion I'm gonna add is once again, as the most comments I got from people is they did not like the fireworks in city limits. Is there any other discussion? Not, Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Motion fails 2-3. Communications, Brad, anything you wanna add into that?
Yeah, so on the communications, there's one thing I need to add to that. The next commission meeting is going to fall on Memorial Day. And so by our city code, that just means that next commission meeting will be done on the Tuesday after Memorial. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. That would probably make a look at the calendar here. That's going to be for the next commission meeting on the 26th.
Won't be in there.
Where are you going?
Coming home from Missoula.
Anything else under communications?
No, nothing else to add. Well, one other thing, so the county is having a tax sale, that is coming up. Andy wanted me to bring this up, if there's any interest that the city has in any of these properties, is something that we should discuss beforehand. It's tough to do that tonight, it'd be easier to do that in like a special meeting, if there's any interest in that, just please let me know. And so I'm going to send out the list of what the city properties are on there. And we can just discuss from there, get back with me, directly on that. If we have interest in having a special meeting about this, please let me know.
What day is the tax sale going to be?
What days?
May 20th.
May 20th?
At 11 o'clock.
There's a copy of it downstairs for her, if you'd like to see the,
Classes online as well.
is it?
It is, yes. I believe it's around any website.
All right, so we'll get all of you things.
Oh, yeah, and Dawn just reminded me, we did have a successful cleanup day. It went really well. We received things from Maytel 1. We filled up 2 dumpsters. We had 24 pickups this year. I did have a good conversation with a resident about ways of method that's theirs. Just getting ideas on how to expand it going into the future. Really great ideas. And so it's something that I feel was very successful this year. It's something that I feel that, we could even expand upon going forward. I believe that we're achieving our goal by getting, things, an area for people to bring things to us, really getting the town to be done. That's always the goal here. So that was also very successful.
Okay, moving on to governing body comments, I was gonna comment on that, Brad, when I came out to dump my dead fridge. Mini fridge, and there was Commissioner Middendorf out there helping get all the stuff. There was, Don's husband Jay was there. There was several city workers that were out there. And I did get quite a few comments from people who really did appreciate the pickup. So that was a nice addition to the cleanup. So I appreciate all the work, and then the city crew who was giving up their Saturday to help get all that trash together. Appreciate that. Dave? Tom?
I'd like to also thank the city crew for doing that. It was nice to see everybody out there helping. Certainly did help me out. Get rid of some junk, but thank you guys.
All right.
Do we have any update with the county and the dispatch problems yet?
And so the chief and I have been in discussion about that. I've been in, what I've been doing as far as looking at our budget and seeing what some of these scenarios are, as far as, what can be done to help absorb some of those costs. I know the chief has been talking to The sheriff on this, kind of getting into that discussion, the chief and I have had a lot of discussion on how we're going to achieve our goals for the city as far as, how we want the code enforcement to go, how much personnel is needed. What I would like to do, and what I was going to propose is that I want to have a budget workshop at this next meeting. We could even do it beforehand, if like say, I would like to have everybody there if possible. That way we can have a good discussion, because it's easiest for me to project what's going on with the budget up on a screen and actually work through those scenarios in real time. It's hard for me to describe what's going on, it's easy for me to show you. And so that is what I would like to do, and we can do that. I mean, I'm ready to go anytime that, the commission is, for example. I have enough information as far as, what I need to get together. And yes, there's information I don't have that it'll be subject to change, but, I think that we can get a good feel and actually have a good conversation as a staff and get everybody together and show everybody, what these scenarios could be. And so I would like to, just have that discussion where I can actually sit down and project what I have onto the TV, something like that. And so that is where we're at with that right now, is just working through different payroll scenarios, different CIP scenarios, things like that. That's what I've been
Are
talking
we
about.
able to do that next week?
Yeah, we can do that next week, sure.
So the county has asked for proposal be given to them, we're looking at July.
July, yes. And so we need to keep this conversation going as quickly as possible.
I'm with you, Ryan, just as soon as we can.
Would we like to, I mean, we can get something out for that, but we can set up a special meeting, something like that. Is that what we'd like to do?
Is it just gonna be a workshop, there won't be a decision,
Yeah, so it'll be a workshop.
doesn't need to be a special meeting. However, we will have to give notice of
Okay,
that you all will be in attendance, there will just be no binding action taken.
How long do we have to put that word out for?
That one I'd be 2 hours,
Oh, we just need 2 hours to let people know, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
but I do have to advertise it, and I will be on a conference starting this Friday, so if we do it next week.
I will have to be.
How long are you gone? The whole week?
Friday.
It's just a matter of doing an advertisement.
Yeah, we just have to get that to the press that there will be a quorum. Right?
Yes,
Correct.
there will be a forum present, and there
Yeah,
will
we-
be no binding action taken.
You free?
Yeah, I'm next Monday or something, if you guys want to do it.
Yeah, if we want to do it next Monday, if evening works best for everybody, then we can do that next Monday evening.
5:30?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I can get it set up. You guys agree to 5:30?
Keep it moving.
Does anybody have any eighth graders graduating next Monday?
What's that?
Eighth grade graduation next Monday. I don't know if anybody has anybody.
Oh, I do.
You do. That's correct.
Yeah, just thank you.
Without names or anything.
Oh,
I wasn't gonna.
What about Tuesday?
How about that open public comment?
Sorry. I was like.
I can't. Well, wait. No, maybe.
What about Wednesday?
I didn't go Tuesday or Wednesday. I was thinking I had the wrong thing.
I won't be available Wednesday.
Well, let's just figure it out.
Tuesday?
We can do Tuesday.
I'll have to go to baseball game.
Okay. We'll figure it out. Everybody just get back with me on what the availability is, and we can work with it.
I mean, and if we have to do it on the 26th, that still gives us time. I mean, if we do it in line with our, I mean, I realize we want to keep things going by doing this discussion, it shows that we are, so if we. But then you have the volume on the 26th.
Yeah.
We have commission meeting that night. So anyway, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll figure it out.
Lauren? Anything?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Is the runway open or closed at the airport?
It is still closed at the moment.
There's no note of,
There should be, the note should have been going till tomorrow, Tuesday. Updated it to the 12th was what I told them. Okay. Like I said, when I called in, I had updated that as well, so I'll call the FAA on that.
Okay.
Thank you for heads up.
Thank you for that.
Is the work complete?
The work is complete, the seed is down, they water it every day, and they're just waiting for the grass to come in.
Okay. Is there more work planned for the future? It's quite rough, the side area they work.
Yeah, and so there is more work planned for the future, and that's gonna be getting back to where, they need to roll that when the time is right, and so, yes, there's going to be more work planned for the future, they're just going to have to. We're going to have to schedule that to where we're not interfering, I guess is a good way to put it.
They also created some low areas next to the ground that they created where it will pool water on the runway now. So
Okay,
there's more work to be done.
yes,
The other thing is it's desperately in need of mowing again.
okay.
Thank you.
But entertain a motion to adjourn. No, you said, you said, don't you?
Sorry, will we adjourn?
For a second.
Second.
Go to second to adjourn, Tom.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0.
Sorry.
This is now part following program.
Yeah, I don't have the, it can pull up on my.